I completely changed my name because I didn't want to be tied to my past. I wanted a fresh start, a new start, away from all that trauma, all that memory. All right, hello guys. Today I'm just going to talk about the purpose of this channel, our mission, and why we're doing this. To start off, I'm just going to share a little bit about myself. So from the time I was 5 until age 12, I was in foster care. At age 12, I was adopted. So I wanted to tell you a little bit about my story, and then jump into why we're doing this. So before foster care, I was emotionally, physically, sexually abused by family members mostly. It was a tough go. One of the earliest memories I have was me and my sister playing in a backyard, and there was some glass windows along a fence. We were bored, so we decided to use the windows as a slide. My sister went first. She was fine. I went and it broke. I remember her running inside and getting help, and us walking to the hospital. I was like thrown on someone's shoulder, and we walked to the hospital just because we didn't have a car. So that was one of the earliest memories that I've had. As the years went on, while I was with my birth parents, there's just story after story. One time I was sitting in another apartment, and someone knocked at the door. My father went to the door. He was very upset about something, and they were getting into a heated discussion. The next thing I know, he goes walking towards a closet and pulls out a shotgun and walks back to the door. Obviously, they left, but before they did, he pulled the trigger. I don't think he actually shot anybody, but it was a pretty scary moment. Sorry, we're outside and I saw some leaves move. I was checking to see what it was. It was just the wind. Anyway, another story that I remember is being sexually abused by one of my uncles. I'm not going to go into any details about that. And another time, I remember us stopping at a gas station and watching from the back seat both my parents robbed the place. And then they ran back to the car and we took off. Not too long after that, actually, there was an instance where we were driving on the road, like a highway or something, and my father was very upset about something, and he was mad at me. I was his punching bag. So one day he opened the door and tried to throw me out of the moving vehicle. Like I said, we were on a highway, so cruising. The only thing that stopped me was my birth mom grabbing me and shutting the door. There's just time and time again where, I was beaten just because I was left alone a lot of the time to watch my two younger siblings. Like I said, I was under age 5. While my parents went off and partied and who knows what, I was just left alone. Sometimes my aunt was there to take care of us and watch us, but that wasn't always the case. So I remember times where we would break into old houses that are for sale or whatever, and just to have a place to sleep. And there's been countless times where we slept in cars. There was one time we were staying at my aunt's house. She was in a duplex or something at that time, and the police showed up at the door, and my father ran. But before he did, he grabbed me and threw me on his shoulder, and we took off running through houses in the neighborhood, and eventually jumped a fence And on the other side of that fence was a canoe just laying flat in the backyard, flipped over. So we actually hid underneath the canoe, and that's where we slept for the night until the next morning, when the owner noticed us and kicked us out. Later that day, my father was captured by the police, and I was also taken to the police station until I had people come pick me up. So just many stories like that. So eventually, I was put into foster care, and I remember that first day like it was yesterday. We were at a duplex that my aunt was living in, and a social worker and a police officer showed up at the door and had a discussion with my mom and father, and they essentially told us that me and my siblings had to go with them. So I had a sister and a brother, and we had to go with them. We were going to go stay somewhere else for a bit, and I locked myself in the bathroom and refused to get out for a very long time. I remember them trying to talk to me through the door, saying it'll be okay. We're just going to go stay with them or stay somewhere else for a bit. And eventually they talked me out, and we left. My sister and brother and I all left. And we were taken to an office building where they gave us a teddy bear. We really didn't have anything with us. Nothing. And sadly, that's the case for a lot of people in foster care. We were eventually taken to our very first foster home. They split my younger brother from my sister and I. My sister and I went to one foster home. My younger brother went to another, and that was traumatizing. Obviously, you're just taken away from a family. You're staying with these complete strangers that you don't know, and now you are separated from, a loved one, someone that you cared about, and that was rough. And that first foster home, we tried convincing them to get our brother back. We want to see our brother. It was rough. And eventually they did. Eventually they did take them in. Later on, obviously, grown up, I know that they didn't want 3 kids. And that was the reason for it. And unfortunately, that's just how it is for a lot of foster parents. They have boundaries. They have rules that they set. They only want to take a certain age group or a certain amount of kids or whatever. Whether I agree or disagree with that, that's just how it is. And I just know it's hard for the siblings, for the family, for the children. Eventually, we left that family and moved to a different one. We were terrible to that family. I remember going to visits and like purposely biting myself and telling my birth mom that, hey, their son bit me, and all this stuff. We were acting out. And as kids that weren't really disciplined at all, from the time we were born until the time we were in foster care, yeah. And with everything that we experienced, that's expected. Kids that go into foster care didn't have a good life. Most likely, they didn't have all the boundaries, all the safety that they needed. They didn't have people to love them the way they should. I'm not saying that's always the case, but a lot of times that is. And so eventually we were moved to a different home, and found out later that that foster family, I believe that was their first time having children, and they gave up their foster care license after that. So it's not for everyone. And ended up moving to a house, the Marshalls. We stayed with them until I was adopted. They're the ones that adopted us. And during that whole time, there was countless court visits, and I ended up, my birth father ended up losing his rights not too long after that. He never really showed up for visits, always was in trouble with the law. He was a danger to people. Um, like, he was not a good guy. Um, but as the years went on, I obviously had to deal with a lot and take counseling and therapy, and I ended up strongly disliking my mom, my birth mom, and I knew without a doubt that I did not want to go live with her. And it got to a point where I was like, around age 11, where I was like, I'm just done with this. She really wasn't doing the things that she should. My sister always had asthma. And anytime we'd go to visit, she would always get sick because my mom was smoking or whatever. There has been a couple of times where we had unsupervised visits, and she would go take us to see our birth father, which was very against the rules. And I saw from what my life was like and the struggle I went with to having, someone there to care for me and support me. I knew what I wanted, and it wasn't to go back to that. My life was better. And I did not want to go back to living with someone that didn't really care about me and who really put me through all that pain. So I would show up to visits, and I would refuse to get out of the car. My sister started doing the same thing, and she refused to get out too. She had the same feelings as I did. My younger brother, he was younger. He really didn't know a whole lot of what was going on, and my birth mom would try to spoil him during visits, but sooner or later, call it peer pressure if you want, he even stopped going to the visits. Well, he went to the visits. He refused to get out of the car, just like us. And that's essentially how we ended up getting adopted. My mom had her rights taken away shortly after that. Our voices were heard. I'll say previous to that, we tried going up to the courtroom to have a discussion with the judge, but they didn't want to listen. We weren't old enough to have a voice. And I remember that just really pissing me off. They were trying to make a decision on something that would affect my life forever, and I didn't have a say. So refusing to get out of the car was our way of voicing our opinion. And I remember my mom at the visits saying, "Can't you do something?" And the social worker was like, "No, I can't force them out of the car. I can't make them go and visit you for the day." And I think secretly, looking back, I could imagine those social workers were very proud, because I was. And it ended up working out. So I was eventually later adopted. I completely changed my name because I didn't want to be tied to my past. I wanted a fresh start, a new start, away from all that trauma, all that memory. And so this is where our mission comes into play. So Porchlight Pathways is a way for me to give back to the foster care community. So a lot of kids age out of the foster care system. They don't have support. They don't have belongings. They don't have everything that they need to become a functioning adult. Some of them do. Some of them have good homes, but not all of them do. And so they're kind of just left on their own. So our mission is to help those foster kids, help the teens as well, become functioning adults, prepare them and give them the life skills that they need to go get a job, go to school, learn how to budget, learn how to do your taxes, you name it. Anything that could be benefit. I'm sure as time goes on, as this works, that we will have more ideas come to us. Another part of this that we want to do is help the foster parents as well. My mom was a foster care, was in foster care for 25 years, and she's been training foster care parents and working with foster care for the last 40 years. And she has a lot of experience. I know for the state of Illinois where she worked, they have foster care support specialists, people that are there to support the foster parents. And that's not the case across the United States. There are states where they don't have any. And we want to be able to provide that support to those families, to those foster parents as well. Give them an opportunity to ask questions and voice their concerns and get advice and see how we can help each other and one another just build up the support for their foster kids, because that's really what it's about. And so what are we going to do? Right now we're talking about having this podcast and videos, and we will talk about things that have to deal with helping teens, helping young adults, in various skills and aspects. So another part of this is that we want to be able to help the foster kids that have aged out of the system to voice their opinions and their thoughts and share their stories if they want to. They don't own their story to anybody, but sometimes just hearing your story can help someone else. And so we would love to have other people come on and sit down and share their story, share their thoughts, share their experiences, because they matter and they help other people as well. And so our goal is to really build a foundation that can be of service to the foster kids. And there's various ways that we can do that, through education, through training, through counseling, through support, through listening, to helping the foster parents. So I can imagine us having a panel of people come on and discussing their experiences. I can imagine having people call in on the show and asking us questions, and we give live feedback right there. So that's just a little bit about what we're thinking about right now. And if you have other ideas, please share them below. Send us an email. We would love to have your feedback. And so that's a little bit about us, about why we are doing this. And I wanted to share that with you. Thank you.